All right, this is part two of my series breaking down the Louisville basketball roster for 26-27. Moving down the starting lineup, we started at point guard, now we're at shooting guard. This is Adrian Wooley. And this video is made in partnership with the 1912 Society. Their link is in my bio. All right, Adrian Wooley is 6'4", 200, and he'll be a junior this year. Yeah, I'd say if you look around, you can see him listed anywhere from 6'3" to 6'5". Obviously, Louisville lists him at 6'4". I would say in a combine setting, based on just how he looks on court, probably end up being about 6'3.5", I would guess. Anyway, last year he played in all 35 games with 16 starts. Obviously, those 16 starts pretty much all came due to Michael's absence. But he averaged 8.7 points, 4 rebounds, 1.8 assists on 45, 35, 78 splits, which those splits are actually pretty good, especially for somebody that had a pretty inconsistent role like he did. In his career, though, he played in 68 games and made 48 starts, which he started at Kennesaw State last year, and he started, I think, 34 of their 35 games or 33 of their 34 games. For his career, he averages 13 and a half, 4.5, and 2.5. Points, rebounds, and assists. That's pretty solid on 49, 39, 77 splits. That's really good shooting all the way around. And then last year, like I said, he came from the portal, and he was actually the highest rated player in Louisville's class last year. That included guys like Ryan Conwell and Isaac McNeely. Conwell being a guy who's going to be drafted here in a few days. And he was the 9th overall player and the number 2 combo guard, according to 24/7 Sports. So last year, Adrian Wooley started in 16 games, but I want to highlight 14 of those 16 games in which he played more than 17 minutes. So you're subtracting a 16-minute game against, I believe, Stanford and an 11-minute game against SMU. You take those two away, Adrian Wooley averaged 12 points, 4.5 rebounds, and 2.5 assists in his 14 other starts in the Louisville uniform. I think that is more in line of what we can expect from him this year as the bona fide, starting 2 in a defined role. Comparing that to the last 2 starting shooting guards for Pat Kelsey at Louisville, you have Terrence Edwards Jr. in 24, who averaged 17, 4, and 3, and you had Ryan Conwell, who averaged 19, 5, and 3. Now, these are two guards that they're very different. Terrence Edwards was a very good defender, not a great shooter, but he'd go out and get you a bucket either way. He liked the mid-range. He's a bit of a volume scorer. Ryan, his stats might not show it because the way he had to play without a point guard for a lot of big games, but dude, he's just a shooter, and he's gonna get drafted here in a few days, and he's going to be drafted as a guy who can go out and create his own shot and make threes. Again, just like Shellstad, it's pretty stiff competition for Wooley, but that's what Pat Kelsey does. Pat Kelsey, if there's anything he does, you may not be a fan, but there's anything you can say that he does well, it's coach guards. So my thoughts on Adrian, the good and the bad quotes. So he's a proven scorer. So he's shown, at Kennesaw State, he was a bucket, averaged 19 points a game on ridiculous efficiency. If you look up his numbers at Kennesaw, ridiculous efficiency. Last year was dialed back a bit. Like I said, he was not in the best defined role last season, but he in that 14-game stretch where he averaged 12 points a game, you're including a 17-point effort against Michigan State and then the NCAA tournament. 21-point game against Cal. There's several other games where he's in the high teens. Last season for us, he's a proven scorer. That's what the proven shooter and a proven scorer. That's what he does. He's good at relocating off the ball. He shoots 41 or 42% from 3 as a set shot. You don't do that unless you're good at getting open and being open when your teammates can pass you the rock and take that open 3. He's shown potential to draw fouls. So in that 14-game stretch, he averaged 3.5 free throw attempts a game. A couple of those games, he shot 7 or 8 free throws in each of those. So that's something to keep an eye on. When you're a guy like Wooley, who's not a great athlete, if you are going to go out and get a bucket, you either have to have great feet or you got to be able to draw fouls. And he's a guy who might be able to go out there and draw fouls consistently. And then he's a capable secondary or tertiary playmaker. He is not a primary playmaker. We saw that last year when they forced him to be a point guard. But he is a guy who can go out there and as a secondary creator, so he can do that. He's shown that. here and at Kennesaw. The bad, air quotes, he's inconsistent, and that could have been due to the role. He's an average defender at best. He's physical, and he has decent length, but he's not a great defender. He could be better, but at the moment he's not a great defender. Like I mentioned earlier, he's not a plus athlete. He's not somebody who's going to go out there and dunk from the free throw line. He's a decent athlete. Last season he had foul issues, mainly at the beginning of the year, but it was apparent. Like, he would come into games and pick up 2 or 3 fouls in the first half and barely make an impact on the game. And I think part of that was due to him never coming off the bench before for a college team. I think he was just trying too hard to make an impact off the bench. I think we could see that, come back down as we did further into the season. When he was playing more minutes, he was not having the same foul issues that he had last year at the beginning of the year. And then the last thing, it's more of an opinion-based thing, but to me it felt like the staff ultimately wanted Wooley to be the 6th man. They tried to go get the kid who went to Duke, Blackwell. They tried to get the kid who ended up at Tennessee, Juke Harris. They even tried to get Momcilovic, and I understand Momcilovic is a 3, but you could see Carter Knox potentially scoot over to the 2. All 3 of those scenarios would put probably Wooley as the 6th man. Not to say he can't be a starter, but there's a slight just idea that in the best case scenario, the staff preferred him to be the 6th man this year. To wrap things up here with my final thoughts and my projections for him, so I think this season he'll be a consistent starter. There are some people out there that think, Montgomery might push him for starting minutes, but I think his ability to shoot is going to be what makes him a consistent starter. He has the potential to be the 3rd option. And I think he's going to average about 12.5, 13 points, about 4.5 boards, 2.5 or so assists on 48, 38, 77% split. So those points, that the point, rebound, and assist total isn't really unrealistic, because that's about what he averaged last season in that 14-game stretch. And then the shooting splits are about what his career averages are as well. So those are my thoughts. If you could give me a like and a follow. Like I said, I plan on breaking down the entire roster. We're going to hop into some football stuff too eventually. All right, appreciate it.